Hi guys, today I wanted to make a quick video talking about my thoughts on perks, which are the big new feature added to Overwatch in Season 15, their pros and cons, and overall whether or not I think they're a good addition for the game going forward, especially for ranked. Before we start, I'm currently sponsored by Royal Match, which is a very popular free-to-play tile matching game where you follow King Robert as he restores and refurbishes his castle. It's super fun and addicting with lots of variety and cool power-ups, and you can download it on iOS and Android using the link below. Our goal for the sponsorship is to have new players reach at least level 20, which doesn't take long at all, so please try it out and let me know if you like it. Anyone that reaches level 20 within the next 2 days will also be entered into a draw to win an Ultimate Battle Pass for Season 15. We also have a team in-game under Hoshizora TTV if you guys want to join and help us achieve our team goals together. Reminder, link below, it's completely free, so check it out. Back to the topic of perks, it's been a week since the season launched, and in this time I've experimented with different heroes in both quick play and competitive and gotten a pretty solid idea of how they work. When perks were first announced, my initial hope was that they'd offer a solution to a lot of heroes' glaring weaknesses and reduce the need to counter swap as much, which is one of my biggest issues with Overwatch 2, specifically the tank role. I was also hoping they'd offer dynamic new ways to play heroes and perhaps reignite some of the excitement from when they announced skill trees all those years ago. Does it do either of those things? Well, to an extent, I guess. The bottom line is, I think perks are a really solid first step into the next evolution of Overwatch, but isn't necessarily as groundbreaking or game-changing as I thought they would be. Let's start with the positives. For the most part, I think the concept of perks and how it has been added to the game has been well thought out and isn't overcomplicated to the point where it might be too difficult for the casual player. 2 minor perks and 2 major perks per hero seems to be a pretty good balance in my opinion. On top of this, perks are pretty easy to get the hang of and are implemented pretty smoothly into the actual gameplay experience without any hitches. Once you've played a hero a couple of times, it becomes pretty intuitive which perks you might want to pick depending on the situation. I noticed most heroes have a set of perks that boost their offense capabilities and a set of perks that enhance their defense or survivability, which makes it easier to decide which might be more useful in a given scenario. Also, pro tip in case you feel like it's hard to choose perks mid-fight is to set key bindings for both perk 1 and perk 2 so you can quickly choose the perk you want with one button. For me personally, I prefer using the Z and C keys on keyboard. I also really like the look of the UI when selecting perks. The descriptions are easy to read and the icons generally match the perks pretty well. I also think it's nice that they added the perk icons to the scoreboard to help you quickly identify which perks people are choosing, even though it can still be pretty overwhelming if you aren't completely familiar with all the perks yet. I mean, there are 42 heroes with 4 perks each, which is a lot. Another thing I like about perks is that they genuinely do make heroes feel better to play for the most part and gives you something to work towards rather than feeling like you've hit a wall with a certain character and can't do anything more. I have found myself looking forward to unlocking that first perk, especially if it's in the middle of a fight, and immediately noticing a difference even if it isn't that impactful in the grand scheme of things. Perks also do help with improving certain heroes' weaknesses, for example Zarya with her lack of mobility being able to jump higher with her secondary fire, or Symmetra being able to extend the range of her primary fire so she doesn't always have to be up in the enemy's faces as much. Perks also just make the game more fun. Yes, it might be a bit more chaotic, but I think that's some of the magic that has been lost over the years from Blizzard constantly trying to fine-tune and balance the game perfectly. It feels like PvP got a fresh coat of paint and you have a bit more agency as an individual player on the hero you choose now, even if it compromises a bit of that consistency and balance, which brings me to the drawbacks of the perk system. I think you guys will agree with me that some heroes have really strong or powerful perks, whereas others have kind of mid or mediocre ones. Take Ana for example, both of her minor perks are useful both offensively and defensively, especially the one that allows her nade to bounce, and her major perks also greatly enhance her individual impact by allowing her to either headshot or nano boost herself. Then you have heroes like Mercy, where both of her minor perks are kinda useless since her survivability is already very good, and these are only useful in specific situations. Her major perks are not terrible, but nowhere near as powerful as Ana's. Double damage boost sounds good on paper, but in practice your DPS are rarely going to be consistently next to each other, and even if they are, there are times where the damage boost might prioritize your other support instead, making it a bit random. The flash heal, on the other hand, does improve her healing output slightly and can be clutch if your teammate is taking lots of damage, but why does it come with a clawback by putting her res on cooldown? Another example is Lifeweaver, who still feels very clunky to play and his perks just don't optimize or enhance his gameplay that much. The only perk I like of his is the Super Bloom perk, which allows him to detonate thorns for some extra damage, but even then it's still kinda mid in practice. The point is, perks at the moment don't feel like they were created equally, and some heroes have an upper hand in terms of what they can upgrade and how it improves their potential. The devs did acknowledge that they will monitor the performance of perks and even swap out perks that are weak or not useful, so hopefully we will see some changes soon in this regard. The other drawback to perks, which I personally don't mind as much but can see an issue with, is the amount of bloat that it adds. On one hand, it makes the game more chaotic and fun, which is great casually, but from a competitive standpoint, it makes the game harder to intuitively understand, especially mid-fight with so many different perks in play. Perhaps they're still too new and it just takes a bit more time, but there are moments where you could lose a duel or team fight just because of certain perks that the enemy has chosen which you weren't immediately aware of. Again, it isn't a huge issue for me, especially as a support player, but I know many people who are frustrated with perks because of the randomness that it can bring to a game. Those are the main pros and cons that I see with the perk system at the moment, but would love to hear your thoughts too, so let me know whether you guys agree or disagree in the comments below. Overall, I still think perks are a great idea that just needs a bit more refinement and tweaking, which I'm confident will happen as everyone becomes more familiar with them. I also feel like it would be really cool to see perks being switched between seasons just to keep things fresh and dynamic, but I admit this probably isn't the best idea for competitive. But hey, maybe for an arcade mode? Anyway, let me know your thoughts and don't forget to download Royal Match using the link in the description. As always, thanks for watching and have a great day.